Even if they're a mixed bag for the Pathfinder Shaman, you still have access to 8th level spells. They're terrifying. Hello everyone, welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, here to go on to the 8th level spell selection for the 1st edition Pathfinder Shaman, and much like I already said, it is a bit of a mixed bag for you, but you're still a full spellcasting class that progresses all the way up to 9th level spells, even if the spells are a bit of a mixed bag for you and not all incredibly effective. You still have incredible powers at your fingertips. You are going to be able to alter the outcome and course of so many different events inside and outside of combat. And before we get into all of that though, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now we'll actually start getting into things for you here, and it's important to keep in mind that while I'm not the biggest fan or all that impressed by the later spell selection options that the Shaman has as part of their spell list, you still have just a whole suite and array of other options and abilities in front of you, with all of these spirit abilities that you get, the companions that you have, and the fact that depending on how you build this kind of class, you're not too much of a slouch in melee either. Hell, depending on your spell selection, even this build can end up being a fairly effective character in a fight if they need to, particularly if your opponents don't expect you to be competent in that arena. But now we'll actually start getting into spells here, and to start things off for your 8th level spells, we have Sunburst. Create a globe of light with an 80-foot radius burst at a range of 400 feet plus 40 feet a level. All creatures in the globe are blinded and take 6d6 points of damage, double to creatures for whom sunlight is harmful or unnatural. I assume that means creatures like orcs or drow, creatures with a sensitivity to sunlight. That would make sense to me, especially with the coming up section here. There's a reflex save to negate the blindness, however, and take half damage. That's fairly standard. But undead take 1d6 damage per caster level, up to a max of 25d6. Any undead specifically harmed by sunlight are destroyed on a failed reflex save, so that's creatures like vampires. Fungi, mold, oozes, and slimes take damage like undead, so they're functionally treated like undead for the purposes of this spell. While you might not find fungi, mold, oozes, and slimes all the time, that's still a pretty broad range of targets, and the fact that this can also affect undead and also is so dangerous to flesh and blood creatures by making them blinded, as well as doing an okay amount of damage to them and giving you incredible range and a huge 80-foot radius burst area of effect to boot. This spell is amazing. This is great. I mean, this is the definition of dealing death at range. Reach out and touch somebody with this, my friend. Several somebodies. But then we go on from there to Blood Mist. This is something that came up for the Druid, but the Shaman has access to it as well. Summon a 60-foot radius rust red toxic algae mist within 100 feet plus 10 feet per level. Targets must make a fortitude save or lose 1d4 wisdom and become enraged, attacking any nearby creatures. This lasts for the duration of the spell, 1 minute per level. On a save, the creature is unaffected, but re-entry into the mist triggers another save. Now, fortitude saves are not uncommon in higher levels, but still, the fact that you can be affecting a pretty significant area at a good range, not as good as Sunburst, but still pretty dang solid all the way around, and really make creatures vulnerable to other effects, since this is potentially dropping their wisdom score and therefore their will saves. This can combo really nicely and also help to turn the tide of the action economy in your favor by causing your opponents to start attacking each other mindlessly. I mean, imagine you target spellcasters with this, who traditionally do not have the best fortitude saves, and you start tanking their wisdom score and get them to just throw themselves into a melee in a blind fury. Absolutely great spell to have. Next, we have Irresistible Dance. Touch target creature, and on a failed will save, they dance for 1d4 plus 1 rounds, unable to do anything else. They take a -4 penalty to AC, lose any armor bonus from a shield, and a -10 penalty to reflex saves. And they also provoke attacks of opportunity each round that they dance. On a successful save, the duration is reduced to 1 single round. So even if they succeed, they're still stuck for 1 round, potentially taking attacks of opportunity. And you might have noticed that -4 penalty to AC is rated as really good. -4 is nothing to sneeze at, but why would I rate that so good? Well, it's because it works in conjunction with losing any armor bonus from a shield. Say they have a heavy shield, wood, steel, whatever. That's a +2 bonus right there, so that's a -6 penalty to their armor class. That's pretty significant. At this level, the shield may potentially be a magic item. And if it's magic, and it's at least, if it's giving another +1 up to a total of +5 there, the target's losing out on another 3 to 7 points of armor class on top of that -4. So that's a pretty hefty penalty to be taking right there. And you're making them even more vulnerable to reflex-based attacks. So any evocations or Sunburst, for example, you are going to be inflicting a significant amount of damage to them and all kinds of ill effects. Absolutely great. The next one, though, is something that everybody's gonna love you for, and that's Resurrection. This works as Raise Dead, except you can restore life to anyone that has not died of old age to full health and vigor, regardless of the condition of their body, so long as they have not been dead longer than 10 years per caster level, so 150 years at 15th level by the time you're able to get access to 8th level spells, and that you have some portion of their body that was from the time of their death. So if they lost a limb or a hand or a finger in a prior fight, and that's what you have, and it wasn't reattached to them and part of them when they died, that won't work. You actually need a piece of them from when they died. Even if they were disintegrated, you can collect the motes of dust and ash and use that to bring the target back to life. You can do this even if they were made undead and then destroyed, so long as you have pieces of the destroyed body. The target gains 1 permanent negative level or 2 points of constitution drain if they were a first level character. Now, that permanent negative level, that is significant, but they were dead before. That's still a massive upgrade. That's an incredible upgrade for them. Even the 2 points of constitution drain, that's a steal. That is an absolute steal and is worth it. Resurrection is amazing. Just note that it costs a pretty penny, coming in at 10,000 gold pieces. I believe it's a 10,000 gold piece of valued diamond that you need to as part of the spell's components, so that's going to get burned fast. Now, these are not the only spells available to use, just they had some lengthy descriptions, and you still have other great ones to have on hand, like Greater Extraplanar Allies or Discern Location. Not everybody agrees that Discern Location is great because it's a divination spell, but I think the divination spells can be fantastic, and Discern Location in particular, in order to block it or affect it, you need to have effects equivalent to the Mind Blank spell or outright deific interference to stop you from using this to gather information on whatever the subject is you're trying to scry in on. So absolutely a wonderful spell. And then you have one that I was hoping to try to fit in more and also held back on in regards to the previous iterations of it, but you have Fey Form 4 and the previous Fey Form spells to greater and lesser degrees of value. The whole host of abilities you can potentially gain access to from assuming a powerful Fey form is incredible. You gain access to their spell-like abilities. You have spell resistance equal to, I think it was 6 or 8 plus your caster level. I mean, again, your caster level is 15 by the time you hit 8th level, so that's a spell resistance of 21 right there, right off the bat. Assuming you don't have anything else that is also providing an additional spell resistance that can stack on top of that, you're still sitting fairly pretty there, so it's worth taking, especially just for the whole host of visual and movement abilities that are offered up to you. And then the Earthquake spell offers up a good deal of utility. The damage is, neat. It has some interesting effects there, but more interesting is the fact that you can bury opponents alive with this, or crumble cliffs and create rock slides. I mean, really, to me, what I'm thinking about is enemy fortifications and barricades and the like. Like if a castle's built on a cliffside, collapsing the cliff out from underneath of it to create that damage and structural instability and cause parts of that to collapse. That's a significant amount of damage to be dealing to an opponent right there, without even having to really get incredibly close, all things considered. You'll still be under some threat assaulting a castle, but still interesting. And then lastly, there's a necromancy spell, Destruction. Deals 10 points of damage per caster level, but if they save, it deals something like 10d6, but if they fail their save and the damage that you deal is enough to kill them, and at 150 points of damage, that's a distinct possibility, you utterly destroy and consume their bodies in holy or unholy energies, and severely limit the ability of that body, that person, to be brought back to life, short of some serious magic like Wish. So all the way around, there are lots of neat things available, but again, it is a bit of a mixed bag, but this is already a pretty solid number of spells. There's about 7 spells here all the way around that are just fantastic. Absolutely worth picking up. But of course, what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? What other spells from the 8th level spell list might you recommend for your fellow players out there? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hit those like or dislike buttons, and remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.